There is a particular kind of silence that follows the end of a marriage, not the silence of emptiness, the silence of something that used to make noise, the silence where the arguments used to be, where the laughter used to echo, where two people used to share a bed and a name and a vision for what their life together was going to look like. That silence is one of the loneliest sounds in the world. And tonight, we are going to sit inside it. 3 women, 3 marriages, 3 very different stories, lived in the spotlight, in front of cameras, on screens watched by millions, and all 3 arriving at the same devastating place. A courtroom, a document, a signature, and the question that follows every ending. How did we get here? Welcome to Purpose in Waiting. I am Brandon, and before we begin, subscribe. If you have ever loved someone and wondered where it went, this documentary is for you. Hit that button now, because we are going somewhere tonight that most channels are afraid to go. Let's begin. The Bible says something in Matthew 19 verse 6 that has been spoken at more weddings than perhaps any other verse in Scripture. What God has joined together, let no one separate. Those words carry enormous weight when they are spoken, when 2 people stand before their families, their faith, their futures, and make a promise. But here is what Matthew 19 verse 6 does not tell you. It does not tell you what happens when the promise meets the pressure, when the reality of a shared life, the finances, the silence, the distance, the betrayal, begins to erode what was once unshakable. Tonight, we are not here to judge. We are here to understand. 3 marriages, each one made in love, each one broken by something that love alone could not survive. Let us begin with the first. Her name is Sai De Silva, and if you have watched The Real Housewives of New York City in recent years, you know her face. You have seen her Brooklyn home, her style, her family, the warmth she brings to the screen. But here is what cameras rarely capture: the ordinary Tuesday morning when everything changes. The specific moment when a marriage, one that started with a love story, a meeting in Costa Rica in 2009 while she was on a girls' trip and he was traveling for work, begins to move toward an ending. De Silva and Craig met in 2009 in Costa Rica while she was on a girls' trip and he was traveling for work. /site. Think about that moment. 2 people, a foreign country, a coincidence that did not feel like a coincidence. Years of long-distance dating. They had 2 children, a daughter, London, 14, and a son, Rio, 8, before tying the knot in 2017. /site. Nearly a decade together before the wedding. 2 children already building a life. And then, on paper at least, the official beginning. Brooklyn, New York. A family finally formalized. The Real Housewives of New York City star's husband filed for divorce in New York April 2nd after 9 years of marriage and nearly 20 years together, according to a court docket viewed by E! News. April 2nd, a Wednesday, in New York City. In the filing, Craig is listed as the plaintiff, filing for a summons and complaint or instigation of a lawsuit. Silva, mom to London, 14, and Rio, 8, with Craig, is listed as the defendant. The defendant, that is the word the court uses. Not wife, not partner, not mother of his children. Defendant. There is something almost clinical about the language of divorce filings, as if the law needs to remove the humanity from the situation to process it at all. Proverbs 12 verse 25 says, "Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up." I think about that verse in the context of what Sai said publicly after the filing became news. She did not explode. She did not perform devastation for the cameras. She wrote, "Thank you for the kindness, grace, and support so many of you have shown me. I'm overwhelmed by all your messages, and it truly means more than you know. My heart is with my children, and my focus is on giving them as much stability and love as possible." Read that again. My heart is with my children, not with the cameras, not with the storyline, with London and Rio. Because at the end of every marriage, behind every filing, every courtroom, every headline, there are children who did not choose any of this, who wake up in the morning and feel the silence their parents used to fill. Sai spoke out on Page 6 radio, sharing, "I'm in a really good place now. I think at first I was a little shaken up and a little bit upset. I respect David so much. That's somebody I've been with for 17 years. He's the father of my kids. I never want this to be seen in a way like I can't stand him, and we're so angry with each other." 17 years. The kind of time that cannot be undone, that does not disappear with a filing, that lives inside you, in memories, in children, in the person you became while you were with them. What strikes me about Sai's words is the grace in them. In a culture that rewards drama, in a media ecosystem that profits from pain, she chose something different. She chose dignity, and whatever happened between these two people in private, in the conversations we were not privileged to witness, the ending, at least publicly, carried the mark of two people who had loved each other genuinely, even if that love had reached its limit. If this story is making you think about the relationships in your own life, about the conversations that did not happen, about the grace you did or did not give, subscribe to Purpose in Waiting. This channel exists for this moment. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, because the next story goes somewhere much darker. There is a kind of marriage that burns so bright that everyone around it assumes it will last forever. Kim Zolciak and Kroy Biermann were that marriage. She was the flamboyant, unapologetic, original housewife of Atlanta, the woman who arrived on screen in 2008 with a wig, a voice, and a presence that nobody could look away from. He was a linebacker for the Atlanta Falcons. Young, handsome, devoted. They married in 2011. They built a 7-bedroom, 11-bathroom mansion in Alpharetta, Georgia, a home that looked, from the outside, like the physical embodiment of everything they had built together. They had their own reality show, Don't Be Tardy, 8 seasons, cameras inside the home, inside the life, and then the cameras caught something they were not meant to catch. Not in a single dramatic scene, but in the slow accumulation of a financial reality that the lifestyle could no longer outrun. Several months before the couple filed for divorce, their Alpharetta home was in foreclosure after the stars defaulted on their mortgage payments in August 2022. A $6 million home defaulted. Since Kim and Kroy split in May 2023, they have faced a number of financial struggles, including a $1 million tax lien from the IRS, several lawsuits, and the impending foreclosure of their 7-bedroom, 11-bathroom home. A $1 million tax lien from the IRS, lawsuits, foreclosure, and both of them still living inside the home, together, after filing for divorce, because neither of them could afford to leave. Let that image sit for a moment. Two people who have legally initiated the end of their marriage, sharing a home they cannot sell, sharing a life they have legally said they are ending, waking up every morning under the same roof as the person they have told a judge they can no longer be with. In court documents filed in the Superior Court of Fulton County in Georgia, Kroy claimed he's concerned for his children's safety with Kim because Among other things, she frequently takes videos of herself while she is driving, even when the children are with her in the car. Kroy also claimed that, since they both filed for divorce in early May, Kim has spent very little time at home. And when she does, Kroy alleged that she's on her phone, leaving him to care for the children the majority of the time. These are the details that do not make the highlight reel. These are the arguments that happen at 7 in the evening in a kitchen in Alpharetta, Georgia. Not on a beach, not at a glamorous event, in the ordinary spaces where marriages actually live and die. Kroy had his 2020 Rolls-Royce Cullinan repossessed after he failed to respond to a lawsuit filed against him by BMW. He was also recently sued for failure to pay a $13,000 debt on a credit card. A Rolls-Royce repossessed. Credit card debt. Reports from late 2024 stated that Zolciak's bank account may be garnished, as she still owes over $215,000 in credit card debt to American Express. This is what collapse looks like in real time. Not dramatic. Just the slow, grinding, humiliating mathematics of a life that was built on sand. Proverbs 21 verse 17 says, "Whoever loves pleasure will become poor. Whoever loves wine and olive oil will never be rich." Whether you read that literally or as a principle about lifestyle, the warning is ancient, and it is real. A marriage stretched across a financial framework it cannot sustain will eventually find that framework collapsing. And when the money goes, the pressure that was already there finds nowhere left to hide. Kim Zolciak Biermann and Kroy Biermann seemingly worked things out as Kim filed to dismiss her divorce from the former Atlanta Falcons star on July 7, 2023/site. They tried. Give them that. In the middle of all of it, the IRS debt, the lawsuits, the foreclosure, they tried to save it. But some wounds, covered over without being healed, simply reopen. After sparking rumors that Biermann and Zolciak would reconcile, Biermann filed for divorce again in August 2023 as financial issues continued to put a strain on their marriage. August 2023, the second filing. Biermann described their marriage as irretrievably broken and requested primary custody of the children they share. Irretrievably broken. 2 words that a lawyer puts in a document. 2 words that carry the weight of everything that cannot be unsaid, everything that cannot be undone. Now that their mansion has been sold for only $2 million, divorce is the next step. The $6 million home, sold for $2, a loss of $4 million. In a marriage, in a life. Dr. John Gottman's research on marriage breakdown identifies what he calls the 4 horsemen: contempt, criticism, defensiveness, and stonewalling, as the 4 behaviors that most reliably predict the end of a relationship. Not infidelity, not financial stress alone, the specific patterns of communication that form when 2 people stop seeing each other as partners and start seeing each other as problems. What happened in that house in Alpharetta is something most of us will never fully know. But what we do know is that financial pressure, the specific, grinding, daily stress of a lifestyle collapsing around you, does not create problems in a marriage. It reveals them. It strips away the comfort that was keeping the fractures from being visible. And what is underneath? The communication patterns, the emotional habits, the unspoken resentments, is what was always there. The money just made it impossible to ignore anymore. If this documentary is opening something in you about money, about pressure, about what holds a marriage together when the external things fall away, Subscribe to Purpose in Waiting. Share this with someone who needs it. Because the third story we are about to enter is the most spiritually complex of all three. She has stood on stages around the world and led thousands of people in worship. She has won 3 Grammy Awards. She is one half of Mary Mary, the gospel duo that defined a generation of Christian music. Her name is Tina Campbell, and she has spent more than 2 decades fighting for a marriage that the man she is married to just walked away from. Glendon Campbell, known to most as Teddy, filed for divorce in Los Angeles County Superior Court on April 13, 2026, citing irreconcilable differences. According to legal documents obtained by TMZ, Glendon says the couple tied the knot back in August 2000 and separated in June 2024, marking more than 2 decades of marriage before things fell apart. 26 years, over half her adult life. And he filed, not her, him. Here is what makes Tina Campbell's story different from the others we have told tonight. Here is the detail that requires you to sit with it. In 2014, on camera, in front of the nation, Tina Campbell discovered that her husband had cheated on her, not with a stranger. The drama played out for television cameras on Tina and her sister Erica's WeTV reality television show, Mary Mary. The person involved had worked for Tina. She used to come get her kids. She had access to her home. She was in the mix of their family. Let that land. Not a stranger. Someone she had trusted inside her home. Someone close enough to be, as Tina described her, like a godmother to my children. Tina had revealed at one point that she felt suicidal due to everything she had been put through. She felt suicidal. A woman who sings about God's grace, who leads congregations in praise, who has given her voice to a message of hope for decades. She sat in the middle of her own devastation and felt that she could not survive it. Psalm 34 verse 18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." I do not say that to spiritualize her pain. I say it because Tina would say it, because she chose to stay, not because she was weak, because she chose to believe that something could be saved. She went on the Steve Harvey Show in 2015 with Glendon beside her. She told the story publicly. She named the betrayal. She named the person. And she said she was choosing her marriage, not because Glendon deserved it in that moment, but because she believed in what they had built, because she believed in restoration, because the same God whose praises she had been singing for decades, she was now trusting in the middle of the worst moment of her life. But here is what nobody tells you about staying. Staying is not the same as healing. Staying is not the same as rebuilding. Staying without the full, honest, painful work of addressing what caused the betrayal, the emotional distance, the unmet needs, the unspoken truths, is not restoration. It is postponement. And whatever happened between 2014 and June 2024, 10 years of what appeared to be reconciliation, something was still not fully resolved. The divorce comes years after a painful and public cheating scandal rocked the marriage in 2014, all of it captured on the WeTV reality series Mary Mary. 10 years later, he filed, "I want to be careful here, because we do not know what happened in those 10 years. We do not know what conversations were had in private, what wounds were or were not addressed, what Tina felt on the inside of a marriage that she had publicly committed to saving, what Glendon was or was not carrying. We do not know, but we know what the end looks like." The couple wed in 2000. He lists their date of separation as June 2024. June 2024. A separation 10 months before the filing. A woman who had endured betrayal, who had chosen restoration, who had given the marriage everything she had, separated, and then served with divorce papers. 1 Corinthians 13 verse 7 says that love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Tina lived that verse for over 2 decades, through the infidelity, through the public humiliation, through the scrutiny of millions of people who watched her marriage fall apart on television and form opinions about what she should have done. She persevered, and even perseverance has limits that are not failures of faith. Sometimes a marriage ends not because one person stopped believing, but because both people needed something the relationship could no longer provide. And the ending, as painful as it is not a verdict on the love that was real. It is an acknowledgement that love alone, without truth, without accountability, without the ongoing, daily work of genuine repair, cannot sustain a marriage indefinitely. 3 women, 3 marriages, 3 very different circumstances. Sai De Silva, a love that began in Costa Rica in 2009, that built a family that appeared from the outside to be thriving, until the man she had been with for 17 years decided the marriage was over. Kim Zolciak, a love that burned bright on television, that built a mansion and a brand and a family, until financial pressure stripped away everything that was holding the fractures together. Tina Campbell, a love that survived betrayal, that chose reconciliation, that carried the weight of a publicly broken trust for over a decade, until the man she had stayed for walked away. 3 different stories, 1 shared experience, the specific grief of a marriage ending, the specific silence that follows. If this documentary is touching something you have been carrying, a marriage you are fighting for, a relationship you have survived, a grief you have not yet named, subscribe to Purpose in Waiting. This is why we are here. Subscribe now. Let me give you something to carry from each of these stories. From Sai, the lesson of dignity in dissolution. When a marriage ends, you are not required to perform your pain for an audience. You are not required to make the other person a villain to justify your grief. You can grieve honestly. You can prioritize your children. You can say with grace, I respect this person, even though this is ending. That is not weakness. That is the most emotionally intelligent response to one of the most painful human experiences. The journal prompt I want to give you from Sai's story is this. Is there a relationship in your life, not necessarily a marriage, where you have been performing the pain rather than actually feeling it, where the public narrative of what happened has become easier to maintain than the private work of processing it? Sit with that. From Kim and Kroy, The Lesson of the Financial Foundation. Proverbs 24 verses 3-4 says, By wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. Through knowledge its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. The house that Proverbs is talking about is not the 7-bedroom mansion in Alpharetta. It is the structure of the marriage itself, built by wisdom, not by income, established through understanding, not through lifestyle. The question I want you to sit with from their story is this. What is the actual foundation of your most important relationship? Not the surface, not the vacations, not the shared social media presence, not the public image of what you look like together. The actual foundation, the financial honesty, the communication patterns, the ability to weather difficulty without the external things that make the difficulty more comfortable. If you cannot answer that question clearly, it is worth finding out before the pressure does it for you. From Tina, the lesson that staying is not the same as healing. The hardest lesson in any relationship that has been broken by betrayal. Reconciliation without full accountability is not reconciliation. It is a truce, and truces are fragile. The question I want you to sit with from Tina's story is this. If you have stayed through something that broke you, if you are currently living inside a marriage that was wounded and technically repaired, is the repair genuine? Or is it a performance of repair? Is the conversation that needed to happen actually happening? Is the wound addressed or covered over? Because the truth does not disappear, because it is not spoken. It lives inside the marriage, and eventually it finds its way out. I want to end tonight with something that all three of these stories share. Not the pain, the possibility. Sai De Silva wrote, "My heart is with my children." In the middle of everything collapsing around her, she found her anchor, the thing that was still real. Kim and Kroy lost the mansion. They lost the television show. They lost the version of themselves they had built for public consumption. But they still have 4 children who need both of them to become the best version of themselves on the other side of this. And Tina Campbell, who gave 26 years, who chose to stay when staying cost her something, who now faces a new beginning that she did not choose, but who has spent more than 2 decades learning who she is in the presence of God. And that does not disappear with a divorce filing. Romans 8 verse 28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Not in some things. All things. Even the divorce filing. Even the foreclosure notice. Even the betrayal that was watched by millions of people on television. Even the separation that arrives after a decade of choosing to stay. All things. This is not a promise that the pain was necessary. It is a promise that the pain is not the final word, the silence that follows the end of a marriage. We began there. Let us end there, because what fills that silence, eventually, is not more noise. It is clarity, the clarity of a person who has survived something they were not sure they could survive, who has sat inside the grief and found out that they are still there on the other side of it, who has learned, through the most painful curriculum imaginable, something true about themselves, about what they need, about what they will not accept, about what they are capable of. If you are in that silence right now, if you are living in the space where something used to be, you are not finished. You are being rebuilt. And what is being built in the waiting, in the silence, in the grief, in the honest examination of how you got here and where you are going, is something the noise never could have produced. Purpose. In waiting, master yourself first. Build your legacy. Script by Purpose in Waiting host. Brandon. All facts verified through News, court documents, TMZ court filings, The Griot, Bravo TV, Entertainment Tonight, People Magazine, Page 6 Radio, The Shade Room, Extra TV, Sai De Silva / David Craig, verified facts used. Met Costa Rica 2009, married 2017, children London 14 and Rio 8. David filed April 2nd, 2026, filed in New York City. 9 years marriage / 17 years together. Sai's Instagram statement. Page 6 radio interview quote. RHONY season 14 debut. Kim Zolciak / Kroy Biermann. Verified facts used. Married 2011. Alpharetta, Georgia mansion, 7-bed/11-bath. Listed $6 million, sold $2 million. $1.1 million IRS tax lien. First filed May 2023. Dismissed July 7, 2023. Refiled August 2023. Rolls-Royce repossessed. $13,000 credit card lawsuit. $215,000 American Express debt. Kroy filing for bankruptcy discussions. Irretrievably broken legal language. Court-ordered mediation. Fulton County. Cobb County refiling. Tina Campbell/Glendon Campbell. Verified facts used. Wed August 2000. Separated June 2024. Glendon filed April 13, 2026. Los Angeles County. Irreconcilable differences. Minor children Santana, 13. And Glendon Theodore, 216. Adult daughters Leah Simone and Mila Jane Sierra Glendons from prior relationship. 2014 cheating scandal on Mary WeTV. Steve Harvey Show. 2015 appearance. Suicidal ideation reported. 3 Grammy Awards. Glendon was on Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Bible verses used. Matthew 19 verse 6. Proverbs 12 verse 25. Proverbs 21 verse 17. Proverbs 24 verses 3 to 4. Psalm 34 verses 18 and 1 Corinthians 13:7. Romans 8 verse 28. Expert reference. Dr. John Gottman. 4 Horsemen Research. Contempt, criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling.